One rule in Japan that just makes sense. Even though most countries have the same boring uniforms every day, in Japan, schools sometimes hold special event days where students can wear non-uniform clothes or costumes, especially during school culture festivals and fun events. On these days, students might show up dressed in creative outfits, sometimes inspired by traditional clothing or even anime style, as part of the celebration. What's interesting is that schools allow it because it's seen as a way for students to express themselves and enjoy school culture, particularly during festivals and special occasions. Ranking 3 of the darkest truths about Japan. Third, loneliness can start early, because in many Japanese schools, kids eat lunch together in their classrooms with a strong focus on order and quiet behavior. And even though talking isn't banned, the structured environment can still feel isolating, like being alone in a full room. If you've ever felt lonely too, hit like, subscribe, and comment yes. Second, being exhausted has historically been tied to work culture, with Japan even having a term karoshi, meaning death from overwork. And while things are slowly changing, staying late at work has often been seen as dedication, not burnout. But the darkest truth is that emotions are often kept inside, as social pressure to maintain harmony makes people hide how they really feel. So saying, "I'm not okay," out loud can be difficult, because in many situations, appearing fine is seen as more important than actually being fine. The dark side of Japanese school rules isn't what you'd expect. It's how strict and detailed they can be. In many schools, students have to follow very specific rules about their appearance, like keeping a natural hair color, wearing uniforms a certain way, and even things like sock length. In some reported cases, students with naturally lighter or different hair have been asked to prove it's their real color. These are often called black rules, meaning overly strict or outdated policies. Discipline is taken seriously, and students can face consequences for small things like hairstyle or uniform fit. While not every school is this strict, these rules have been widely reported and criticized in Japan for being too controlling. Why do some foreigners feel lonely in Japan? It's not just one thing. It's a mix of cultural differences. First, Japan is what's called a high-context culture, meaning people often communicate indirectly, so it can be harder for outsiders to read social cues or build deeper connections. Second, the language barrier is real. While some people speak basic English, most daily conversations and friendships happen in Japanese. And third, social circles can be more private and long-term, so it may take longer for newcomers to feel included. It's not that people are unfriendly. Japan is known for being polite and respectful, but for many foreigners, these differences can still lead to feeling isolated, especially at the beginning. Why do some Japanese people avoid sitting next to foreigners? It's not always what you think. In many cases, it comes down to uncertainty, not dislike. Japan is a high-context culture, and many people worry about language barriers or not knowing how to communicate in English, so they may feel nervous starting a conversation. There's also a strong cultural habit of respecting personal space and avoiding situations where they might feel uncomfortable or cause awkwardness. Studies and surveys have shown that some Japanese people feel anxious about interacting with foreigners, mainly because of communication concerns, not negative feelings. Of course, this doesn't apply to everyone, but for some, that hesitation can come across as avoidance, even when it's really just shyness or uncertainty. Why is being overweight less common in Japan? It comes down to lifestyle, not just genetics. First, traditional Japanese diets are typically lower in calories and include more fish, rice, vegetables, and smaller portion sizes compared to the US. Second, daily movement plays a big role. People often walk more, use public transportation, and stay active throughout the day. Third, there's a strong cultural focus on balance and moderation when it comes to eating. Japan also has national health programs that encourage regular checkups and healthy weight management. According to global data, Japan has one of the lowest obesity rates among developed countries, but it's not zero, and lifestyles are slowly changing over time. Why do Japanese people wear masks even when they're not sick? It's actually part of everyday culture. First, many people wear masks to prevent spreading germs if they have even mild symptoms like a cold, which reflects a strong sense of social responsibility. Second, masks are commonly used during allergy seasons, especially for pollen, so people wear them to protect themselves, not others. And third, masks can also provide a sense of privacy and comfort in public spaces, which fits with Japan's culture of being more reserved. This habit became more common after past flu outbreaks and was already normal long before COVID-19. What's dating really like in Japanese schools? schools, it's a lot more low-key than you might expect. In many schools, dating isn't openly encouraged, and the focus is strongly on academics and group activities like clubs. Some schools even have rules that discourage or limit romantic relationships. Because of that, students who do date usually keep it private. Public displays of affection, like hugging or kissing, are also less common in school settings compared to the US. On top of that, communication tends to be more indirect, so relationships can develop more slowly. Why do some Japanese girls walk with smaller steps? It's not a rule. It's more about cultural habits and fashion. In Japan, a more reserved and controlled way of moving is often seen as polite or refined, so shorter, neater steps can be part of that impression. Clothing can also play a role. School uniforms like pencil skirts or tighter fits naturally limit stride length. Footwear, like certain types of shoes, can also encourage smaller steps. On top of that, from a young age, some girls are taught to move in a more composed and less attention-grabbing way. Why making friends in Japan can feel so hard, especially if you're not from there. First, most friendships in Japan are built over time through school, work, or shared groups, so people don't usually start random conversations or invite new people in quickly like in the US. Second, communication is often more indirect. People might not say exactly what they feel to avoid awkwardness or conflict, which can make it harder to know where you stand. And third, personal space and privacy matter a lot. So trying to get close too fast or asking personal questions can feel uncomfortable. Why no one talks loudly on trains in Japan? First, public transport there is seen as a quiet, shared space, so people try not to disturb others, especially during long commutes where many passengers are resting or decompressing. Second, there's a strong cultural focus on being considerate of others, and loud conversations are often viewed as disruptive, even if they're normal in places like the US. Third, train etiquette is actually reinforced through signs and announcements. Many trains ask passengers to keep voices low and set phones to silent mode, especially during busy hours. 3 things tourists do in Japan that low-key annoy locals. First, recording strangers without asking. It might seem harmless, but privacy is a big deal in Japan. People, especially kids or students, shouldn't end up in your content without permission. It's better to skip close-up shots of people and stick to filming places instead. Next, being loud in public. In Japan, keeping your voice down shows respect. Taking calls on speaker, blasting videos, or talking loudly on trains will make you stand out right away. And lastly, taking up both sides of the escalator. In Tokyo, people stand on the left and leave the right side open, while in Osaka, it's the opposite. Stand on the right and keep the left side clear. Even though the official guidance is to stand still for safety, blocking both sides still gets on locals' nerves. That's 3 things in Japan that totally shock first-time visitors. First, how clean everything is. Even though there are barely any trash cans, you'll end up carrying your trash way longer than expected, but somehow the streets still look spotless. Next, how quiet public transportation is. Even on crowded trains, people keep to themselves, and taking phone calls is a big no. Everyone's just being respectful of the space around them. And lastly, the level of convenience everywhere. There are vending machines all over the country, and convenience stores actually have fresh, high-quality food that feels like a real meal, not just a quick snack. That's why do Japanese people avoid eye contact? A lot of people assume it means they're rude or not interested, but that's not really the case. In Japan, eye contact is naturally less direct than in the US, and there's a cultural reason behind it. Strong or prolonged eye contact can feel intense or even a little aggressive, so people are often taught to be more subtle and respectful in how they look at others. In everyday situations, like crowded trains or even at convenience store counters, people may look away to give others a sense of personal space. It's actually a form of consideration, not avoidance. So when someone isn't holding eye contact, it doesn't mean they're ignoring you. It can mean they're listening closely, being polite, or just a bit shy. In Japan, looking away isn't disrespect. It's often a quieter, more respectful way of interacting, and that's